we're here to protect you and the ones that you love. It's a good feeling to know that our efforts aren't going unnoticed.
It actually brought tears to my eyes to know that we have this support.
You're welcome. I must just say you're welcome. It's stressful, but we're not going anywhere.
Welcome to another edition of Bucknell Baseball Through the Decades. I'm Todd Newcomb, and today we're joined by the group from the 1980s. We've got a great group of alums, as well as current head coach Scott Heather and one of our current players, Kyle Lyons. It's a pleasure to welcome you, and we want to thank Geisinger, our sponsor for this, everything they have done throughout the pandemic to keep us all safe, being on the front lines. Geisinger has been a great partner for Bison Athletics. Our guest today, I'll start with Don Leitzel from the class of 1985. Don was the team captain in that season. He was an all-East Coast Conference selection at shortstop in 1985. He hit 6 sacrifice flies in the 83 season, which was second on the single-season list in that category. He was a co-side academic all-district team selection in 1983 and 1984. And he was a co-side academic all-American honorable mention in both those years as well. Our next guest from the class of 1989 is Ted Aceto. Ted was an all-East Coast Conference utility player in 1989. 31 years after graduating, he still holds the career batting average mark at .408, and he's the career on-base percentage leader at .503. Ted ranked second on the career chart with 58 stolen bases and 9th in slugging percentage at .570. He's one of 3 Bison for the cycle. He did so against Pitt in 1989. Ted scored over 1,000 points on the hardwood for the Bucknell basketball team and was a member of 2 NCAA tournament teams. He played 2 years in the New York Mets organization following his graduation, and Ted was inducted into the Bucknell Athletics Hall of Fame in 2000. Our next guest from the class of 1990 is Joe Markulik. Joe was the team captain in 1989 and 1990. He was an All-East Coast Conference shortstop in 1990. He was an ABCA All-American second-team selection in that season. He posted 2 seasons with batting averages well into the 400s and finished with a career average of .395, which ranks 3rd on the all-time list. He ranks among the top 10 in 6 additional career batting categories, including hits, percentage, doubles, triples, stolen bases, and sac flies. He's a co-side academic all-district team selection in 1988, 1989, and 1990. He was a co-side academic All-American second-team selection in 1989, and he was a co-side academic All-American first-team selection, and the biggest honor of all, in 1990, he was a National Academic All-American of the Year. Joe played in the Atlanta Braves organization for a while following graduation, and he was inducted into the Bucknell Athletics Hall of Fame in 2001. Our final guest from the class of 1983 is Paul Bamford. Paul was the team captain in 1983. He was an All-East Coast Conference outfielder in 1982. He was an East Coast Conference Scholar Athlete also in the 1982 year. We're also joined today by current player Kyle Lyons. Kyle's a sophomore outfielder from Westchester, Pennsylvania. And Coach, we've got another great group. I'm going to kick it over to you.
Yeah, I'm really excited for this tonight. Thank you guys for jumping on with us. What a great group of players and athletes and student athletes for sure, and looking forward to this. Donnie, we'll start with you. Take us back to the beginning. How your recruitment to Bucknell kind of came about, and how you played baseball at Bucknell.
Well, I wasn't really recruited to Bucknell. Back then, I think it was Gene's first year. 1982, is that right, Bamford? You would have been a junior?
Yeah, 1982. That was the first year.
Okay. So I wasn't really recruited. I decided to go to Bucknell to get the education, and I was scared as crap when I when I showed up and there were 50 guys over on a side field by the field house. As a walk-on, everybody's a walk-on, I guess. And I thought, boy, how am I going to make the team here? And guys like Bamford were hitting bombs over in the athletic field. So I was a little bit scared. it was definitely unheralded.
Well, it definitely worked out all right, for sure. And congratulations on the Lewisburg High School baseball job. I'm excited to have you with the program there, and I know you got a good group of kids that definitely some good ball players. Good luck with that. I know the season was cut short this year, but the future is definitely bright.
All right.
Good luck with that. Paul, how about you?
Yeah, you know what? It was much the same as what Donnie was talking about. I remember there was literally it was like the first weekend. There was an activity seminar, I think, back down in Davis Gym. You didn't even have the rest of that area down there built. And so showed up, and at the time, the coach was Tommy Thompson, as I recall. I played for him for, I think, 2 years. Gino's first year as head coach was my junior year. So it was, and same thing. There was no recruitment at that point. We had no fall ball at that point. I think we played maybe 26 games, 28 games during the season. So it was a whole different ball game, whole different lineup of teams that you played as well back in that ECAC or whatever the conference was called. But it was very much, you just went in, you signed your name, where you're from. And, they kind of called you later on. I think we did a little bit of thrown around in the fall at some point. But it was very casual as the program at that point. I think in our later years, we started to do a fall baseball program run by the team and the captains at that point. But it was it was very different program than it is now, no question.
Sure. And Gene was still coaching football as well at that time.
Yeah, so Gino, I think was he the offensive line or D line group?
D-line.
Yeah, and I think all those guys, they pulled double duties. They didn't have just one job. So it was because Tommy was actually helping to coach basketball at the time too, I believe.
Sure.
In fact, he and I, our first conversation was a guy from my high school the year before who was recruited, and he actually was up there on scholarship. But Tommy was running and helping with basketball, and I think Tommy might have even been involved in golf as well at some point. So the whole book, different programs. But Gino at the time was the.
Sure. Ted?
Yeah, mine was a little different. I started out in high school wanting to play basketball and baseball, so I kind of focused on both areas, and then whoever would have me to play both is kind of how I narrowed down my schools. George Petrie initially recruited me, with Charlie Woolham, and then I talked to Gene Depew afterwards, and he said, he'd take me if I decided to come there, and ended up, choosing Bucknell and then playing the two sports there. I guess Gene was also doing football, and Tommy Thompson was a coach, and he was doing golf, I believe. So I guess they delivered everything, for a long time.
Right, for sure. And Joe, how about you?
Yeah, similar to Ted, I played football and baseball in high school, and I first met Coach Depew in the fall, my senior in high school. He came up to watch me practice football, and I was debating, which sport or both to do at Bucknell. And then in the spring, just really started narrowing it down to baseball and visited Bucknell and talked to Coach and focused my efforts there along with the engineering degree. So I was really honored to play next to Ted in the middle infield for a couple of years at Bucknell, and he was amazing in basketball as well. So it was really cool.
That's great. Well, we'll come right back to you, Joe. As a player, talk about how you matured on the field from day one of fall ball, or if you had fall ball and until your senior season.
Yeah, we did have fall ball, and when you first step on campus, for me it was like, okay, am I going to be able to make it here? We're not in high school anymore, and the guys were super receptive. Coach Depew very supportive. Freshman year was trying to feel out the pitching, the traveling, trying to balance that with all the schoolwork, which was quite challenging, doing work on bus trips, hotels, etc. But then getting into the weight training program, the running, felt more confident sophomore year, which ended up being a really strong year. And then one of the things that we did going into our sophomore year, a bunch of us freshmen talked to Rick Hartzell in the athletic department about, hey, could we consider getting another baseball field on the other side of the highway, which was more tailored to baseball, as well as a spring trip. And Coach Rick Hartzell and Gene Depew were very supportive, and the next year we got those things going, which really helped us because springtime in Pennsylvania can be a little cold and wet and muddy, so that was a big help. But I think the confidence and using a bigger bat by the time I got to be a senior, really working on strength and conditioning. Being able to throw the ball, get a lot of bat speed was a big help. Hitting right-handed curveballs really helped senior year as well. And having Ted out there pushing from a batting average standpoint was always a good incentive for me as well. So it was a big help.
That was great. Yeah, and thank you for doing that. Field's still located over there on that side, and have the field turf, as you can see behind Todd's head there. He's
That's awesome.
And that definitely helps with the early weather practice and getting out there on the field, and it's been great to be over there, and really appreciate that. Ted, how about you?
Again, for me, it's different because I would have, in the beginning, I wouldn't have the fall ball. It would be basketball season. And then we did go to the NCAAs twice. So as soon as basketball would end, I'd try and transition into baseball. And in some cases, the games are already going on. I try and sneak out, during basketball season to try and get some licks in the cage. And, thanks to the guys, because I just come out and coach would let me go right up and hit some balls and then leave again, because if Coach Williams found out, he'd probably be off the basketball team. So, little things like that, just to try and get in shape for when the season ended, or maybe a week or no time at all to try and get in shape and go right at it. So that was always challenging, but it seemed to work out pretty well.
That's great. Paul, how about you?
Yeah, similar in the sense that we didn't really have a fall ball program. So and really the lineup was contingent on the folks that actually signed up, because you weren't doing any recruiting program. So there were years there where and I think Donnie was freshman when I was a junior or senior, I guess it was. And so you'd go and, you knew there were some solid athletes, and whether it was your fraternity or just that you knew on campus, recruit them to help play. A lot of the work we did was we actually kind of started informally. We had the old Jan plan that I think they've got not something like that, but a little bit less. But you'd have off from Christmas all the way until the first week of February. And so a lot of us would end up going up in January, and you try to just use that time. And it was, you might be taking a single class. You had a lot of free time on your hands, which was good news and bad news. But you spent a lot of time down at the gym, so that, and again, our field was Christy Mathewson Field. And, they put up this, the snow fence in December and took it down at our first game, or had it up there as our outfield fence. We didn't have a real fence either. But, you did a lot of the work inside in the gym. You had a lot of the hitting cages, and so we'd be in there all of February and into March, and generally get out just about the first decent day you had. So a little bit different than where you are at this point with that nice field across 15.
Yeah, that's certainly been a blessing. This year was definitely a mild winter, and I think we were only really in for full team practice probably about 4 or 5 times, and we were out maybe 20 plus times on the field, which was really nice and helped our guys prepare for sure. Donnie, how about you?
Well, by the time I was a junior, the fall ball got underway a little bit more stringent. Billy Lane would run it because Gino was still coaching football. And I think we had maybe 5 or 6 doubleheaders on the weekend, 6-week program. And again, we finally got to be able to use the field over there instead of going down to the field house. And I really enjoyed the fall program, because that's some of the nicest baseball weather you get. And and then the 2 years after I graduated, Joe might remember me. I was a grad assistant for a couple years, and Billy a lot of times couldn't make it because of the work schedule, so I was on my own with the fall program for a while. And I can tell you, from those 2 years of being a grad assistant, Markulik and Aceto were phenomenal. And I just want to say to all you guys, if you're still interested and have the itch for playing ball and you're anywhere near the Harrisburg area, we have an over 40 team. And if you're still interested in playing some ball, just let me know. Because that's a lot of fun still if you have the itch. But no, back to the fall program. The 6 weeks there, getting to know incoming players. It was a lot of fun for me. It gave you a season starting in February and running into the middle of October. So
for sure. And yeah, this fall with a lot of our guys losing a lot of at bats and obviously losing our season, and then we got a good amount of them playing summer ball, but really going to try to play as much as we can and look to get 75 to 100 at bats and kind of like you're saying, have another season. As you said, the weather's great, and we can get a lot in. Hopefully we're able to do all that, with everything going on. So excited for that. I know our guys are excited to play and compete as well too. I'll let Kyle ask the next question. Go ahead, Kyle.
What advice would you give me or any other players about the college baseball experience at Bucknell? I guess, Donnie, we'll start with you.
Well, like I said, I'm kind of familiar. I'm right in the middle of these guys that are on the call right now, and I'm familiar with all their abilities. And again, they're fabulous players. Paul was quite a leader when I came into the program because I was scared. I was one of those Pedro Guerrero guys. Don't hit the ball to me, man. but Paul helped me a lot with confidence. And I think that 1983 season, his senior year, was the first year that we had a non-losing season since 1969. And then my senior year, we had the first winning season since '69. I think Paul, your senior year, we were 14-14.
Yeah. Funny, I always round up, so I always go with the winning season.
Well, yeah, absolutely. We were I think the year before we were something like 9-23. Jimmy Cawley.
There were some tough seasons, no question.
And Jim Cawley was our starting shortstop and captain, and he got injured, so all he could do was DH his senior year. But I would say take it all in. Take the time to smell the roses. I look back on those years, and they were fantastic. Just the names in getting ready for this call, the Jimmy Francis and the Brian Besteckis that I played with, Cheetah from Paul's group, characters, one and all. And the camaraderie was the big thing for me. I just enjoyed the social aspect of it. The road trips I didn't mind because we were pretty close, I thought, and had a lot of fun.
Great.
Enjoy your teammates.
Yeah.
Even in a shortened season this year, I definitely felt the camaraderie on all the road trips. It was a lot of fun. So what about you, Paul? I guess you're next.
Yeah, you know what? I'd say much the same thing. It's funny. When you think back on it, as Donnie has said, there's a number of people still close friends with. So, one of my best friends is Dave Marin. His son Peter plays with you. And so I get a chance to, if you guys come up to Holy Cross or, we actually travel a couple different places to go see us, so I can be with Dave as well. And I remember at the time, I think I was a sophomore, and Tommy Thompson was the coach. And it was one of those, it's the end of the season. There's a lot going on. We weren't having a great season, so everybody's distracted. And I remember him at the time trying to admonish us that, listen, guys, you only have so many days where you get to put the uniform on. And, Donnie said, smell the roses. Well, for him, he was like, you got to smell the cut grass. remember the rest of us all looking at him like, what's this guy talking about? But at the time, and I've said it now, as I've been, president of Little League, and I've coached my son and high school sports and AAU programs and all the rest of it, and try to say the same thing. And I miss it. It's funny, Donnie, you say that, if you got the itch. Unfortunately, I don't live down in Harrisburg. I'd love to. There isn't an over 40 league in Boston, but I would love to. I get down to actually Sunday a lot because of business. So, but it's one of those where, it's going to go by so fast, and I'm sure it already has for you. And the thing you'll remember is those guys you played with, the buddies on the team. I'm still really good friends with guys like Jeff Miller, who played with us at the same time as well. So there are a lot of friendships you're going to keep, a lot of good memories. The bus trips at the time, hated them all. But now I think back on it, like, man, I'd love to do a bus trip again, And there were bad sandwiches, and it was hot, and it was late. You were missing the fraternity parties and all the rest of it. But you don't think of that now. You think about, I remember in the back of the bus, almost like, kind of scenes from Bull Durham, where they're, just kind of shooting the breeze and having a great time. So enjoy it while you can.
Definitely, yeah. What about you, Ted?
Well, have confidence in yourself. I remember coming, off the basketball season my freshman year, and two of the guys, one of them's like, I started out batting 8th and 9th, after the season. That's where I got inserted, and they were telling me after a couple of games I got moved to leadoff hitter, where I was more familiar with, which I'd always done. And they're like, Ted, come here. They pull me aside and they're like, listen, this is what you do when you're in the leadoff spot. And I'm going, whoa, is like college different than high school? For me, leading off's just leading off. Just have confidence in what you do and go out there. Time flies, like Don said, and then the others have said, before you know it, it's over. You don't think that way when you're a freshman or a sophomore. I got 30 more games. We only played maybe 28 games, 30 games. Back then you guys are playing close to 60 now. So, you blink, the season's over. Then you play summer ball. Next thing you know, you graduate. You may have the opportunity to play afterwards, and then that's gone. 30 years later, we're on a conference call, and it's like talking about, the good old days. So, yeah, you play the cliches, one game at a time, have fun while you're doing it, take it serious, because, sooner or later you're not going to be able to play. More power to you, Don, for being able to still play. But my days are done. I'm down in the Miami area, so I used to think, playing basketball and baseball, you always want to play with that intensity. You don't know what intensity is until you come to Miami and play against people that live in Miami who only played 8th grade ball and now are playing softball. That's what intensity. I'm like, holy moly! I mean, that is their career, and that's when I hung it up and said, I'm done. I don't even play softball anymore. I'm like, you know what? I had my fun, and and that's it. So have your fun while you're at Bucknell. At least you're farther than these guys, playing softball, back in the day. So enjoy it while you can.
Yeah, definitely. What about you, Joe?
Yeah, really enjoyed hearing what Don, Paul, and Ted said. I would just add maybe a couple of thoughts. Consider setting some goals for yourself. Bucknell has a long history of academic and athletic excellence, and many academic All-Americans through the decades. That was one of my goals. And so when when you're feeling either stressed out from classes or those road trips that are tough, keeping those goals in mind to drive you forward, to get up early, stay late studying, hitting the batting cages, trying to balance those athletic and academic pursuits, I think is really good. And then consider maybe having a mentor, a senior or a junior. I had Dave Shuba, who was a great mentor for me. He was a mechanical engineering major like I was, and I said, Dave, I'm struggling with thermodynamics. Can you help me out? And just having some upperclassmen to kind of come alongside you and just get some help or encouragement. I think that goes a long way.
Yeah, we definitely had a really good group of seniors this year that could be great mentors going forward too.
That's awesome.
Great advice for sure. And Joe, your name comes up a lot on our recruiting tours. We go by the academic All-American wall, and your name's on there 3 times as being able to, to reach your potential in both. And that's what we talk about a lot in the recruiting process, and in particular, those that have engineering interest and to be able to do that and do that at that high level and play baseball at that high level is not easy. So congratulations, certainly on that. One of the things that Gene left me, in his office when I moved over from assistant coach to head coach was just all his notes from over the years in terms of kind of his evolution as a baseball coach. And you guys were there at the beginning of that. And I came in at the end, and he kind of had his deal set by then. But talk a little bit about, playing for Gene or Gene being around the program, if he was an assistant during that time, and just, how his how he developed as a baseball coach during that time. We'll start with you, Joe.
Yeah, Coach was very open to thoughts and suggestions. I think midway while I was there, we brought in a pitching coach, and I think the pitching, from what I've seen over the decades, has really developed. When Ted and I played together, there was a lot of hitting. Averages were pretty decent, scored a lot of runs, and I think Coach brought alongside him a pitching coach to start moving in that direction and try to get that side of the diamond going. But Coach was very hands off. He wasn't like down into the nitty gritty details necessarily. He let everyone develop their own strengths and talents. And like Ted said, moving the lineup around. I batted third, second, first, all over the place, whatever the team needed. And if you were on the base paths, he'd give you the green light to go and steal some bases as well. So it was very fun, and really enjoyed it.
That's great. Ted, how about you?
Yeah, I think the best thing that Coach Depew did for me was he let me play. He didn't try and handcuff us or have to do it this way. He kind of understood me, at least, for how I was, didn't try and change much. And again, for me, going from one season to the other was kind of hard. Maybe on the other guys too, I could just walk right in and started playing. But he wouldn't handcuff us at the plate. He would let us run if he thought we could do it. He gave us the, there's my sign to go. Yeah. So you guys, so Joe hated that. Joe would like, would you pick this guy off already so I can hit? I was usually leading off. He'd be behind me, so I know I drove him nuts being out there. Thank you for being patient. But no, he allowed us to be to grow into the players that we did by not handcuffing us and letting us do what we did well.
That's great. How about you?
Yeah, so I mean, I think the thing for me with Coach Depew was just, and as Donnie alluded to, we had some tough seasons early on in my career as freshman and sophomore. They were long seasons, and it was really starting to build the program as we talked. We got better junior year and broke even as senior year, and then started to win after that when we left. I don't know what that says about my problem, but it was one that I think he adjusted to the group he had, and really, as we've all, whether we've coached or whether we've been in them younger, high school or college, we've had some tough seasons. The thing with Gino was that he really made the experience a fun experience as well. He'd been mentioned a couple times here how he kind of let you guys play, and he did that. But he also, every kid on the team had a nickname. I think, my nickname was Rookie at the time, and I was a rookie for 4 years. Even as a captain, I was still a rookie. But it was, but he did those things so that, in spite of the long season or the tough, small number of wins, that it was a fun season as freshman and a sophomore. And then things got a little bit more focused as he took over the program by junior year and then senior year as he knew you had a solid group of players. Got a little bit more, disciplined in terms of what we were doing, in terms of some of the situational baseball that we were playing. And so he really adapted to the folks that he had as part of the team. But it was a fun experience.
Oh, that's great. Don, how about you?
Yeah, Gene was extremely patient coach. He didn't get on you for mistakes, and I know I made plenty of them. But if Ted wasn't going to mention it, I was going to throw this one in here, the on because I've been coaching every year since, a lot of high school and Legion ball and even the adult teams, and that is still the green light for me. I've used it 3 years since, and Everybody around the league knows it, all the opponents, and it's a great sign because you're basically telling your better base runner, steal if you get the opportunity. And if they want to pitch out, heck, most of the time we're not even going. When I was coaching first with Ted at Bucknell, he was a little tentative as a freshman. I said, Ted, you can steal this base. Go ahead. Just and he'd wait for his opportunity, and he was hardly ever thrown out. But as a head coach, in your coaching career, you pick up little things from everybody you've played for. And that's just one of those things I picked up from Gene. And I had to remember early in my career to be more patient with players. So if anything, I got that from Gene, being patient, living with the mistakes, the physical mistakes, and knowing that they're going to happen, and just focusing on the mental aspects more than anything with my players.
For sure. And yeah, I'll kind of echo the letting the guys play for sure, especially as an assistant for him. I saw the benefits of that. And he always had a guy that would have a career year, senior, that maybe hadn't done much before that year. And a lot of times it was because he believed in him and made him feel that way. And definitely try to carry that over. We keep the green light sign, added a little bit of a wrinkle. And Kyle's a guy with really good speed. Maybe a little bit like Ted, and he needs to go a little bit more. He can definitely steal some bags for us. I gave him that green light a bunch, and hopefully as a sophomore he'll cash in on that a little bit. Yeah. We'll go into kind of just your most memorable experience as part of the Bucknell baseball program, and we'll come right back to you, Don.
Oh boy, there's so many. I guess one of the big things was heading into Paul's senior year, which was my sophomore season. The lineup was kind of unsettled. I certainly didn't expect to start. And I think before the season started, right before we got underway, Gene called us each into his office, and him and Billy would go over what they saw as our goals on the team and giving us an idea of how much playing time we were in store for, what positions we'd be playing. And it's at that moment him and Billy told me I was going to be the starting shortstop. And I was taken back, and I thought, oh, my goodness. As a freshman, when I was filling in for Colley a little bit, I had a ton of errors. And, in fact, I'm so glad you guys play more games now. Because I had the career error record when I graduated. And it took until the late 90s for somebody to break that, and thank God, because that's the last record I held. Heck, that broke all the records I might have had. I think I had season doubles and career runs, and they broke them immediately. But I still had the error record. So when he called me into the office, I certainly didn't have a whole lot of confidence in myself, and he dropped that on me, and I thought, oh my goodness. And Dave Marin and Paul certainly were very supportive of their younger shortstop, and I think they could sense that I was a little bit scared out there because I came from a program where I didn't start until my senior year in high school. So again, I was very unheralded and wasn't used to the pressure, and they helped me out quite a bit.
That's great.
So that'd probably be my most.
Sure. And you got to be a pretty good hitter to hold the errors record, because otherwise you wouldn't be in the lineup. So there's still good things with that for sure. But yeah. Paul, how about you?
Well, first off, it's funny because, Donnie, I don't remember the errors, and I was playing behind you. If you would have missed it, they would have come to me. So, but I do remember you had a cannon for an arm. That's for sure. But it wasn't necessarily a single game for me. What I remember was in our junior year, we made our first Southern road trip, and we went down to DC for 3 days. So, and that was literally, and that was over spring break. Everybody else went to Florida. We went to Washington, D.C., and played Towson. We played Georgetown. We played maybe one or two other teams in a doubleheader. I just remember the trip and having we beat Georgetown. I remember that when we played Georgetown, it was, if I recall correctly, it was the day after Georgetown lost in the NCAA finals, probably late April, somewhere around there. But we ended up beating Georgetown. I remember that game. But it was more the experience. It was the road trip, and I'm sure with you guys making all the different trips, Kyle, that you've got, a couple of road trips, the quick ones, and then the long, week-long trip down to Florida as well. To me, that was, again, part of the whole experience beyond just the baseball. It was the camaraderie, the team aspect of it. And again, I know we beat Georgetown in that game, so that was a lot of fun as well, which is kind of the icing on top.
Was that the year that maybe somebody got left at American? Were you guys a part of that trip? Or maybe not?
I'm sorry. Say that again, Scott.
There was a story that Gino and maybe even Tommy used to tell in terms of they were at American. They had to switch the game to another field, and somebody got out of the back of the van right before they left, and they left them at American. This is before, like,
no, actually, I wish that'd be a great story. No, that it must have been a couple of years after me. So yeah, we never played American. So.
All right, good deal. Ted, how about you?
I don't know, Paul. You got to be lucky to go south. I think we went north during spring break back then. For us, we played like Princeton and Rutgers, right? So, of course you remember all, the good things that happened over the years and stuff. I remember one game I think Joe might have been playing. We played Bloomsburg or Gettysburg. It should have been called Iceberg because the snow was coming sideways. I remember jumping up and down like, I'm walking off this field. I don't care. This is it. I felt like, who does this? And I tell that story today. I live down in Florida now, and a lot of baseball down here. And I tell that story, and they look at me like I'm crazy. I'm like, no, we played in the snow. That's one thing that will always stick with me. But it's just a lot of good times over the years. Unfortunately, I got hurt one year, and I missed my junior year for the baseball season. But there's just so many to think back on, and it's hard to believe that all this time has gone by, and there's certain little things that stick in your mind. But yeah, definitely that snow game. Had to throw that one out there.
It's funny what you remember. When I see guys, that I coached in the early years at Bucknell, there's certain games, just the coldest games that they definitely bring up and remember for sure. Joe, how about you?
Yeah, a couple of things similar to Paul. Our first trip down south to Virginia during spring break, we played James Madison, we played VMI and a number of schools, and just how warm it was, and the grass was green, and I mean, it was great to get down there for a week and play some ball, and we were pretty competitive, and so we were pretty excited about that. I do remember the cold day that Ted's talking about. I think you were blowing on your hands in middle infield the whole game, Ted, if I remember right, because it was so cold. But then also, senior year for me, seeing Ted getting the opportunity to play in the minors in the Mets organization was, really encouraging. And, that was another goal of mine. And from a memory standpoint, I remember, the first, few weeks in the minors, and there was only a couple guys on our team who had graduated college, one from University of Texas, one from the University of North Carolina. The rest of the guys had left college early or come out of high school. And it was really cool to be able to say, hey, I graduated from Bucknell, and to be able to, share a little bit about our university with these guys. So that was a really cool memory.
How's that? Kyle, why don't you ask the next one?
Yeah. What advice would you have about networking and finding the right job after Bucknell? And Joe, we'll start with you.
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think a couple things. We had a lot of great job fairs at Bucknell. I ended up spending quite a bit of time with GE, going through interviewing process with a couple of their programs, Edison Engineering and Manufacturing Management. So I think making sure that you're part of those job and career fairs. But what's really interesting in the interview, they definitely wanted to hear about the balancing between academics and athletics, but they were very interested in hearing about, so you guys went to the athletic director and you were able to, influence getting a field and spring trip. So I think there's a lot to be said on not just the pure GPA, not just playing baseball, but what other things are you doing? What kind of leadership skills are you developing, within your fraternity, within, your baseball team, potentially a captain someday. So getting those leadership skills is really important to cultivate during your 4 years at Bucknell.
Definitely. What about you, Ted?
Well, what you're going to find is playing athletics, it applies to everything in life. When you see people that have never played sports before, you can, say kind of tell. But there's a difference to how you handle things and mature, on the field, off the field, versus people that have never played sports before. So the things you learn playing baseball or whatever else you play will affect you later on. So, take it serious, work hard, and, that'll take you a long way. Keep the, it's a lot different today than it was back when we played or were in college. I think my roommate had a computer and that was it. Bo brought a computer. Bo Hayden had a computer. None of us had computers in the dorm. Now everyone's got a phone, computer, this, that, the other thing. So, I still don't have Facebook. It's one thing I don't do, that social media thing. I'm surprised Todd found me. I think I fell off the map for some people. But, yeah, keep your contacts up. It's a different world today, and look what's going on today. So you're going to meet a lot of good friends, whether it's baseball fraternity in the college, people you play against. And then that could help you out, later on. There's a Bucknell connection. Down here, when I first moved to Florida, there's people from Bucknell. Oh, you went to Bucknell? And they always want to hear about it, because down here it's Miami, Florida, and Florida State. That's it. I say Bucknell, they look at me like, where's that? So only the people that have been outside of Florida know where it is and understand that it's a good school. And, so it'll go a long way. So keep your connections up, do the right thing, and, you'll land a good spot later on.
Definitely, yeah. What about you, Paul?
Yeah, I would. I've literally had one job or one company I've worked for my whole life, so it's a little bit unique. I worked for Procter and Gamble, and that's the job I got coming out of school back in '83. The one thing that we do is, there are connections that you've got. You've just got to work at that, just like you do working out for baseball. And baseball will be any sport will be a great background. I literally just hired a kid out of West Point. He was a catcher for West Point 5 years ago. And that, to me, that is a big plus, because I know the competitive side. I know the discipline that's going to go with it, in addition to obviously coming out of West Point. But the element for you is it's going to take work. And it's one where you've got more context than you probably realize. I get a lot of calls from folks that, see me on LinkedIn, know that I'm with Procter & Gamble, done marketing or sales. And so folks will reach out. Who are juniors or seniors, and more than willing to talk with them, more than willing to help. The Bucknell connection, it's, you're going to a terrific school. The Bucknell connection will help. I see that in my daughter who goes to Colgate. Same thing, it will help. But the other part is, even with folks that, parents that, you see with the other teams, if there's something you're interested in and you understand what they're doing, one of the keys that I've seen with my kids as well is just doing informational interviews. And, you can get together 5 or 6 questions in over, 15, 20 minutes. Similar to what you're doing now, asking us questions is begin to understand what they do, what they like. And that may not lead to a job, but it might be another contact that gets you what you're exactly looking for. So again, approach it as, and it's not, I wouldn't say necessarily it's hard work. It's going to take a little bit of effort on your part, but you've got a great background. So use it, and use the connections with Bucknell as well.
Definitely, yeah. What about you, Donnie? I think your mute's still on.
Todd, can you unmute him?
There we go. How's that?
Yeah.
Okay. Like Paul, I've worked the same place since I graduated from Bucknell. I'm nearing the end of a 35-year teaching career. Before I actually signed on at Shikellamy, I started interviewing the middle of my senior year, And I actually got 4 jobs, 4 different teaching jobs, and I kept trying to get closer to home with each job. And every place I interviewed, I wasn't necessarily a good interviewer. It's just that the Bucknell education and the ability to budget your time and be a captain of the baseball team, that went such a long way. They might be interviewing 4 or 5 candidates. They let me know that up front, and at the end of the interview, they offered me the job just because they were going to maybe a state teachers college at the time, and I had that Bucknell education, and it worked for me. Every place I interviewed, they offered me the job. So you're going to have that going for you, quite an advantage, depending on what field you're going into. But certainly with the teaching aspect, I had no trouble. And even interviewing for the Lewisburg baseball job this year, I had been an assistant the last couple of years at Chickalimmy, and I wanted to be a head coach again. And coming home to Bucknell, so to speak, I had a lot of confidence that I was going to get the job. So I think it's going to go a long way for you.
Definitely, yeah. That's one of the reasons why I picked Bucknell originally too. So.
Mm-hmm.
That's great advice, guys. Paul, who's the catcher from West Point?
His name is Kyle Cachopa.
Okay.
So he literally just did his completed his 5 years, I guess. Earlier in the during the winter in January, February. So he's up here in the Boston area, and it's going to be. He comes on board next month. It'll be interesting, but it's been good to kind of swap stories back and forth. I think he was a backup catcher for them at the time. Yeah.
Sure. I thought it may be, the Boston connection. That J.T. Watkins, the former catcher, was the guy in the that was giving the signals to the hitters what pitch was coming.
Oh, okay.
He might have been looking for a job, but
I would have got that in the check.
They're a great program, and it's always fun to go play those guys.
Oh yeah.
We'll come right back to you. Kind of update us on your personal life. Where do you live now? Career, family, all that type of stuff.
So I live up in the Boston area, just south of Boston. I've lived here now for probably about 24, 25 years. My first 10 years out of school bounced around a bit. As I said, always with Procter & Gamble. But I moved out to the New York area. I'm from Pittsburgh. So, I bleed black and gold, by the way. But moved out to Jersey, and then kicked around in Philly, and then up to Boston, out to our headquarters in Cincinnati. I've done a lot of different roles within the company as well, in a couple of different functions. I've been in our, started in sales, and I just came back to sales, kind of run our East Coast group now. Which, as things have kind of died down elsewhere, I tell folks I sell toilet paper for a living because we sell Charmin. So I've never been busier in my whole life. But I've also spent time in marketing and our product supply and logistics organizations as well. Procter has been good to me. I've enjoyed it. It's been a lot of fun, great people working with, and really enjoy the Boston area. So it's been a lot of fun.
That's great. Ted, how about you?
Once I graduated Bucknell, I went on, with the Mets, for a little while. After that, I got my a master's degree. I had been in athletics all my life, so I started on down that path again. Then I moved down to Florida, and a guy I met over at Doral was gonna, buy a restaurant, and I said, hey, I'll run it for you. So I got into the restaurant industry, and 20-some years later, I'm still here. People are, why you got a master's degree in the restaurant? And it is what it is, pays the bills. And it's not the path I would have chosen, but I worked for Kim Bocamper down here. He used to play for the Dolphins, so I've met a lot of the football players. A lot of people, because he's got a name and he's in the news, so a lot of people come in that I've seen, throughout the years. I'm still friends with some football players today. Used to play basketball in their yards. They got, full court set up, you can imagine, right? So, yeah, I've just been doing that for the last 20-some years in the restaurant industry, which is tough now with all this going on. I got my my mortgage license, so I do that on the side also. and got a couple properties investing in. So trying to stay busy.
That's great.
Got married, well, family life too. I can't forget that, right? So got married probably 20 years ago. Have 3 kids. One's going to be a freshman at University of Florida this coming year. So I have 2 girls, 1 boy. One's going to be a sophomore now, going to be a junior in high school, and the other one will be an 8th grader. So staying busy.
Sounds like it. That's great. Joe, how about you?
Yeah, I'm great to hear about Paul bleeding black and gold. I do too. My parents are from Pittsburgh, so longtime Steelers and Pirates fan. But similar to Ted, after playing in the minor leagues a little bit, enjoyed almost 20 years with GE in their appliance and energy divisions, Louisville, Kentucky, Atlanta, Georgia. And I've been in actually the healthcare industry with Humana and Cigna now for about 10 years. So the whole COVID-19, I mean, we're right in the middle of all of that. So I'm doing pretty well. Contact center operation and pharmacy. So we've been quite busy. My wife Tiffany and I, she graduated from Bucknell when I did. We've been married 29 years, 3 kids. Our oldest graduated from West Point 3 years ago. Ironically, Paul was talking about that. He got back from Korea last year. He's first lieutenant now at Fort Sill, Oklahoma. Our daughter Annika, she's a nurse at a hospital, so she's dealing with patients coming in and out, all the PPE equipment, et cetera. And then our youngest is going to be a sophomore at Georgia Tech. So they keep us hopping and pretty active.
Thank you. Don?
Well, I've been here in the Lewisburg-Sunbury area all my life. Born in Sunbury, went to Shikellamy. So Bucknell was an easy decision when I was accepted there. And I came back to Shikellamy. Like I said, I had to break some other contracts along the way until the Shikellamy job came open. But when kids ask me why I'm a teacher, I say, well, because of baseball. I wanted my summers free. So that's why I made my decision in college to go into teaching. And I wanted to coach. I'd wanted to coach for a long time. So that made it the easiest. Back then, almost all your coaches in high school were teachers. So that's changed a lot these days because it's a lot tougher to coach anymore with all the clearances you have to get and all the courses you got to pass. But baseball made my decisions for me, actually. I've really enjoyed teaching math at the high school level for 35 years. I married my wife, Cindy, 1 year out of Bucknell. She went to Bloomsburg University, and we have 3 kids. Kyle is the young. He's still at home here. He just graduated from Bloomsburg. Crystal is 5 years older than him, and she's in the horse industry. And my oldest, Kurt, he's down in Mechanicsburg as an accountant. And I really enjoyed coaching the boys teams all the way up through Little League as they grew up. So there's been a lot of coaching, a lot of baseball. I've stayed in touch.
That's great. I'm doing a Little League camp, in the mornings the last couple of weeks, and it's just great to get out on the field, and kids are loving just playing the game and being out there, and it makes you remember what it's all about, for sure. I wanted to ask you too, we had Bobby Felmy coach with us a little bit. Did you ever have him in math class?
I had him in math, and he was a hard worker.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, he was one of those perfectionists, and I think he met his current wife in my math class. He sat behind her, and I think he copied off her a little bit.
I believe that's why he was focused in that class for sure. He brought a lot of enthusiasm and that love for the game of baseball that I'm sure you passed on to him. It was a pleasure to have a coach with us. Sure. We have time for one more question. I'll let Kyle ask the last one here, and we'll go from there.
What teammate did you admire the most throughout your career, and why? And Joe, I guess we'll start with you.
Well, he's on our call with us. I mean, Ted was consummate athlete, being able to go from basketball season to baseball and then just pick up and hit 400, that's a special athlete. So I really enjoyed playing Ted, trying to turn some double plays here and there. Really, respected what he did on the field, on the court, and then, of course, representing our college in the Mets organization.
Definitely very cool. What about you, Ted?
Well, Joe is a big help also. You don't do this on your own, whether it's basketball or baseball, whatever sport it may be. You have to have someone hitting behind you who knows how to hit the ball, or else you're not going to get pitched to. So, I had protection with Joe behind me till that made my job easier. Same thing on the base pads. Everything kind of works together, as a team. So, there may be some honors out there, awards, that I may have or other people may have, but it's the whole team that comes together that enables that to take place, I think. And a lot of that may go unsaid. But, I thank Joe for being there, and as well as the other guys too, so it's not, that goes for basketball and baseball. So I thank you for putting up with me again, trying to be a little running on the base pads, disrupting your, the job you had to do. But at the end of the day, it worked out. I think we all had fun, and, it was a good time.
Yep.
That's awesome. What about you, Paul?
That's good question. Thank God I had a minute here to think. At the time, I said it was a gentleman, and I know Donnie mentioned is Jim Cawley, who was our captain a year before me, and who ended up breaking his leg. It was a guy came in, literally, we went out the night before, brought new spikes, and he planted on a turn at second base, and the guy came in and hit him hard and broke his leg. And he did a terrific job that season, just in terms of being a part of the team and really still contributing, even though he couldn't play. It was a really tough injury for him, so I admire that. But probably overall, though, I go back to a gentleman I talked about before, which is Dave Marin, and his son Peter plays on the team now. Dave and I are good friends, and Dave has a tough disability at this point himself that he's been battling for a number of years. But Dave is singly responsible for a group of about 16, 18 of us at Bucknell that, over the years have maintained an incredibly strong friendship and take 1 or 2 trips a year together. And in spite of, what he battles, he is the linchpin for this group. So, it was a friendship forged back on the field at the time with him playing second base. And, it's continued. It's been a terrific friendship over 35 years. And so probably Dave is the guy that, as I think about long term, beyond the playing days, the person I really look up to and most admire. He's been a terrific incentive.
That's awesome. What about you, Donnie?
Again, there's probably no one teammate that single out, but I'll mention a few guys that I played with that I had special memories with. Hector Wong was the second baseman. We had a lot of harassing guys when they got to second base, calling out Omaha, probably before Peyton Manning called out Omaha. We used to Omaha the thing. Louisville, and make them a little nervous out there. But there was also Rob Masonis, Jay Jenny, Scott Slifer, and there's a guy I still play ball with. He's working out of the State College area, Jeff Inchalik. Paul, you will remember him.
Yeah.
He's still playing on our over 40 team, so I see him a lot. But and the older guys like Kenny Durr and Andy Neslick was a younger guy. He made the Braves organization. He was a pitcher. Boy, was he good. He played up to AAA in the Braves organization. So, goodness, we could have this round table and talk all night about some of the characters and get them together, and just great memories.
Really cool for me to see all the memories kind of come back to life and see how vividly you guys remember all that stuff. And Paul, I wanted to kind of echo your thoughts on Dave. Dave's been a huge supporter of the program. He's at every game and works to get there. And he's certainly passed those qualities on to Peter. Peter's really stepped up as a leader of our team as a junior, and primed to be, our captain this next year, and far from the tree for sure. So I thank you guys a bunch for jumping on here with us. This is really cool just to connect, and I'll get you some gear in the mail, and we didn't have the golf tournament. We'll get you some new shirts. So I got a bunch of shirts left over. So send me your sizes, what sizes you like. But thank you. A lot of fun for me, and I'll let Todd wrap it up.
Thanks, Coach. And guys, thanks so much for joining us. This was a really great call, especially for me. You guys all, for my decade at Bucknell, and I got to see you all play. So enjoyed getting back in touch with you, and thank you for all that you have done for the program and continue to do for Bucknell. It's really appreciated. And Kyle, thanks to you for joining us today. Good luck with your season. We're going to keep our fingers crossed and hope that you actually get out there and are here this fall, and then actually field for a season in the spring. Who knows what's going to happen, but we're keeping our fingers crossed. Don, good luck with Lewisburg. I wish I was coaching there about 10 years ago. My son could have used you as a coach. All right. And we want to, once again, thanks, Geisinger, and thank you all for tuning in, and go Bison.